back. So I hope you have had some time to look at the more complex definition of class. You have an instantiator and you have print info. We have restarted it. So let me try constructing my elephant again, my tortoise again. Okay, previously it was unable to use print info method because it did not exist. Now we have this print info method. So le dot print info, look at that, another way of getting the same output. From the animal class, use the print info method, evaluate it at le, and yeah. So what is the advantage of this? Notice self f name I was able to use in my function, in my method, right? So this has self dot f name, self dot l name, self dot age has more than local scope. It's no longer local to the init. It can be used in another method within the class definition. All right. If I ask it what is le dot f name, it's able to tell me. Okay, I can. So self is a qualifier. So you're able to qualify this particular variable, right? In other words, it's not just local variables. You see, you can access this outside, within the class, in by other methods, and outside. Okay, so that's why do not forget self. Do not forget self. All right. Okay. Now let's make this a little more complicated, right? Okay. This looks like, okay. So what's the difference? I have a variable which is not defined in my instantiator. Moreover, this variable is not qualified by self. Such variables are called class variables. Variables which are qualified by self are instance variables. Within my instantiator or within my constructor, so it helps to remember instantiator or constructor. Okay, remember both names, it's very important. Within the definition of the instantiator, I'm accessing number of animals, but I'm not accessing it by itself. I'm having to invoke the class name first. Okay, because this is a class variable, it is not an instance variable. Instance variables are affiliated to the objects you create, whereas class variables are independent of the objects you create. So what does this say? Animal dot number of animals, I'm increasing by 1. Okay, why am I increasing? Every time I construct an animal, I update my number of animals. That's what this is doing. Okay, so let's see how I get to use any of this here. In the print info method, I'm using my instance variable, right? Age, self dot age. Age by itself has no meaning. Age is referred to the animal you construct. Different animals have different ages, right? Different first names. But number of animals, that is from the class animal, this is a class variable. So no self. Okay. So let's save and run this. we have restarted, so we'll have to build our constructor animals all over again. Oh, before I construct another animal, let me see print info. Why do I say this? Oh, there is no LE1, I'm sorry. le.print info. Full name of my animal is Gentle Giant. My animal is 20 years old. Okay. So far we have created one number of animals. You see that? That class variable came into play. Now suppose I construct another animal, Tor. Okay. Let me see the information on the tortoise. Full name of my animal is Sage Thinker. My animal is 80 years old. So far we have created two number of animals. That's what this is doing. Okay. Every time a new instance is created, I'm updating this. So notice earlier elephant said I created one number of animals. Let me try print info again. Let's see whether it has updated this. It did. That's the advantage of a class variable. It got updated. It is not dependent on the object we create, but it's dependent on the class itself. Okay, so this is an important notion. Let's look at the dictionary. Okay, first name, last name, and so on. So everything is good. Now we are ready to come to the example mentioned in our lecture notes, the employee class. Okay, so let's read what this says and then play with this. Okay, so class employee, the constructor or the instantiator uses first name, middle name, last name, date of joining, annual income. So for every object, self dot underscore first name. What does that underscore mean? Let me take you to our very early lectures where we studied classes, UML drawings, right? There we go, class name. Okay, so if you recall, I asked you to draw design abstract person class, employee and client in it. Okay, plus means public attribute. Okay, all of these have one underscore. What do they mean? They are protected. So how do I get a public attribute? No underscore makes it public. Okay, one underscore is protected. And two underscores is private. Okay, and how do I get underlined attribute? Underlined attribute, those are the class variables. They don't come here. If you remember in our previous example, class variable. Okay, so my original example had only one underscore. That means it was protected. Package attribute we are not looking at present in our class, so let's not worry about it. So my employee has a first name, middle name, last name, date of joining, annual income. all that is mentioned for self. So they are all qualified by self. Okay. Now here is a method get name. So the name is not qualified, mind you. So that is a local. Name is a local variable of local scope. It is not qualified by self, so it is not an instance variable. It's simply a local variable for this method. Name is self first name, concatenate with a space, concatenate self middle name, concatenate with space, and concatenate last name, and return name. So that's all where name is used. All right, so it's a local scope variable and it gets used. Get date of joining, get annual income. What are we doing here? We are simply returning some instance variable. Okay, so these are only giving you information about the employee without changing the employee's variables. So if you recall, such methods are accessors. So these are accessor. Now, new annual income. So I'm suppose going to increase an employee's annual income by 5%. So I have to multiply 1.05 times the original annual income. Okay, that is new and I'm returning new. Again, new is of local scope. It is not qualified by self. So this is a local scope variable which I return immediately. So new cannot be used anywhere else. Here, this is new annual income. So this is not an accessor. Okay. It is neither a mutator. It has not changed annual income. It's simply returning something. So here is information about the employee. Give the first name, give the annual income, new annual income, and date of join. Okay. I'm asking you now to play with this in the sense use construct some employee, give a first name, last name, middle name, date of joining, annual income, 2 3 employees, and make sure you implement and invoke every single method here to understand what's going on. Okay, until then, next lecture